Okay, so get ready for this, listeners. Today, we're going deep, deep into old Vietnam. We're talking folklore, we're talking crime.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
It it is. You sent in this book. It's called Met Tot An Trum Vabuttrum Quanguiza,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
written by Ton An way back in 1969. And it is just jam-packed with all these stories about, well, clever thieves and the even cleverer ways that people tried to catch them.
You know what I think is so interesting about these stories? It's not like they're just, condemning theft outright.
Right.
The book actually starts off by, acknowledging the skill it takes.
Yeah.
Almost like there's this grudging respect for the artistry of a really good heist.
Yeah, totally. It's not just about being sneaky, right? There's this whole element of finesse and strategy that the book seems to almost admire.
Exactly, exactly. He
And
even compares thievery to, an art form,
yeah.
which I think really sets the tone for all these intricate stories.
Well, and speaking of intricate stories, let's just jump right into one. An Ban Wu and the Stolen Water Jug.
Oh, yeah, classic case of mistaken identity.
Right.
Poor An Bungu gets wrongly accused by his friend of stealing this water jug.
And this is where the story gets good. So he starts noticing all these tiny, tiny details, like how the lid is placed, a damp spot on the bottom of the jug.
Oh, wow.
The kinds of things that most people wouldn't even, think twice about.
Yeah.
But, thinking about old Vietnam, these everyday objects held a lot of significance.
Right.
So he's using these details to figure out, to deduce who the real thief is. This guy, Kentrim Vu.
Ah, a sly one.
But An Ban Yu, he doesn't just want to, clear his name.
Right.
He wants to get that jug back
Of course.
and expose Kentrim Vu in the process.
As he should.
So he comes up with this plan,
Okay.
this elaborate plan, inviting Kentrim Mu over to his house.
It's a classic trap.
Oh, it is, it is.
He knows, a thief like Katrin Swanvu wouldn't be able to resist the chance to kind of, gloat.
Right.
Or maybe even try and steal something else.
Exactly. So he strategically places this valuable item out in the open, right?
Oh, the suspense.
Acting all casual, but really he's watching Kachung Swanbu's every move.
Like a hawk.
And then, oh, this is the best part. An Banu reveals the stolen water jug,
Okay.
hidden in plain sight this whole time,
Oh, that's perfect.
and exposes Kachung Swanvu right there in front of witnesses.
Justice.
It's so good. It's like the story really highlights how important intellect and strategy are, not just for, stealing, but also for outsmarting someone who's trying to pull a fast one on you.
Right. It's like a game of chess.
Exactly.
Where every move is carefully calculated.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. The book also talks about this folktale figure,
Okay.
the Kauga,
Yeah.
this bird catcher.
A bird catcher, known for his clever techniques.
Oh, he's so clever. And, the Kaga, I think, is a really great analogy for those skilled thieves who they understand human psychology.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Just like the Kaga uses his knowledge of bird behavior to catch them, these thieves are using their understanding of people to kind of get what they want.
It's all about those predictable patterns, right?
Yes.
Whether it's a bird going for the same bait every time or, a person who always leaves their door unlocked at the same time of day.
Exactly, exactly. And the book argues that thieves often use those social customs and routines to their advantage. And there's this one story that I think really exemplifies this.
Okay.
It's about an ambitious thief who tries to steal a pig.
Oh, this is a cautionary tale
It is.
about greed and pushing your luck too far.
Yes.
This thief gets so focused on getting that pig that he ends up losing his life in the process.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that sometimes too much ambition can be your downfall.
It definitely highlights those moral lessons that are kind of embedded in these stories.
Yeah. I think a recurring theme in all of these stories, though, is how important observation and deduction are, both for the thief and, the people trying to stop them.
Right.
It's this constant mental battle of trying to figure out routines, weaknesses, and how to use them to your advantage.
Right. Like, take, for example, that story about the thief who noticed that this family had this habit of placing a stool outside their front door every night.
Yeah. Seems harmless enough, right?
Right. But this thief saw an opportunity.
Yes.
He uses the stool to climb over the wall,
A sneaky.
get into the house, steal a pig. It just shows how even the smallest detail can be exploited if you're observant enough.
Oh, that is so clever. So the book even gets into like the actual security measures people used back then.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a whole section on using dogs as guard animals.
Yes. Breaking down different breeds and their effectiveness,
Yeah.
like a historical guide to home security.
I know. They were really taking it seriously. They were like reinforcing their walls, planting thorny bushes strategically.
Why?
They were understanding the weak points in their houses. Like it was this constant back and forth between the people trying to protect their stuff and the people trying to take it.
A constant battle of wits.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of taking it, the book has some pretty wild stories about like the creative methods that thieves use.
Oh, yeah.
Disguises, distractions, even camouflaging themselves to blend in with the environment.
Incredibly resourceful, these people.
Oh, they were. And there's this one story that really sticks with me about a thief who wanted to steal a neighbor's water jug.
Okay.
But instead of just like taking it, he came up with this whole elaborate ruse.
Ooh, what did he do?
So he pretended to have lost his own identical jug,
Okay.
going door to door asking if anyone had seen it.
Oh, clever.
And eventually he gets to the house of the actual owner,
Right.
who of course says they have a similar jug.
Of course.
But then the thief gets even sneakier.
Oh, no.
He starts pointing out these tiny made-up differences between their jug and his missing one.
Wow.
Like claiming his had a specific marking or a unique feature.
So sneaky.
Right. He leaves and then comes back later that night and steals the jug.
The audacity.
I know. It just goes to show that thievery in old Vietnam was as much about like wit and social engineering as it was about stealth.
Totally, yeah. It seems like exploiting those human weaknesses was kind of a common theme, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
You know, thieves would use people's greed, distraction, even their trust to get what they wanted.
Oh, for sure. There's this great story, I think it's in the next chapter, about a thief who targets a very superstitious homeowner.
Oh, yes.
What he does is, knowing the homeowner is easily spooked,
Mm-hmm.
he starts spreading all these rumors about a wild pig spirit that's roaming the village.
Oh, so smart, playing on their fears.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he offers to help the homeowner set up all these elaborate traps and charms to ward off this, like, supposed spirit. But of course, it's all a sham just to gain the homeowner's trust.
Like classic.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And so while the homeowner's busy worrying about this fake spirit,
Mm-hmm.
the thief waltzes in and takes the pig.
It's brilliant.
I know. It's a classic example of how, like, manipulating someone's beliefs can be just as effective as picking a lock.
Totally.
Hmm.
You know, I think these stories really blend crime, folklore, social commentary
Hmm?
in such a fascinating way.
Hmm.
They give us this window into the values and beliefs of the time
Yeah.
and how they can be used for, you know, both good and bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've talked a lot about the clever techniques used by thieves, but the book also highlights, the dangers of greed,
Right.
even for those who are trying to, like, be on the right side of the law.
Exactly. And there's that cautionary tale about that person who tries to trap a wild pig using a pitfall trap.
Didn't that one end kind of badly?
It did. It did. He was so focused on the reward, the meat, the bragging rights of catching this wild pig,
Yeah.
that he went a little overboard and made the pit way too big.
Oh.
So his own trap became his undoing.
Wow.
He was blinded by greed,
Mm-hmm.
didn't think about, the practicalities or safety.
Yeah.
And when the pig finally fell in, he couldn't get it out because the pit was too deep.
Oh, no.
Exhausted and desperate, he ended up falling in himself. And, well, you can guess what happened next.
A grim reminder that greed can have some serious consequences.
It certainly highlights the dark side of human nature and how easily we can be blinded by our desires.
I think, these stories, they're not really just about crime. They're about human nature itself.
Mm-hmm.
The cleverness, the greed, the vulnerability, it all comes into play.
And that's what makes them so timeless.
Yeah.
The specific methods of theft and protection, they might change over time, but those underlying principles, those stay the same.
Yeah. And even though the methods might seem, old-fashioned now, the underlying ideas, I think, still resonate today.
Mm-hmm.
We still have to deal with scams, with security systems.
Yeah.
That eternal struggle between those who want to take and those who want to protect.
For sure. For sure. Even in the book, they talk about, for example, how important it is to understand dog psychology when you're using them for protection.
Yeah, it's true.
Even today, we know that different breeds have different temperaments, right?
Yeah.
And they're better suited for different security needs.
Absolutely. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job, whether that's, a specific breed of dog or the latest high-tech security system. It's almost like these old stories are giving us a blueprint
Yeah,
for thinking about security in a modern context.
that's a great way to put it. And speaking of blueprints, let's go back to that chapter about the Koga for a second. What was it about that story that really stood out to you?
What really caught my attention was how the book goes into such detail about the Koga's methods. It was like reading a psychological profile
Right.
of both the birdcatcher and the birds themselves.
It's a fascinating study of observation and manipulation, isn't it? I mean, the Koga's deep understanding of bird behavior,
Yeah.
their calls, their feeding habits, how they react to different things. That's what allows him to set these practically irresistible traps.
It's like he's playing them.
Yeah.
Almost like a puppet master.
In a way, yes.
Wow.
But what's even more interesting is how the book connects that to the methods that are used by skilled thieves.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. The Kaga uses decoys, birds that look and sound real, to lure other birds into his traps.
Right.
Thieves can do the same thing,
Yeah.
using disguises, fake names, made-up stories to kind of trick their victims.
So it's all about figuring out the target's weaknesses and exploiting them, whether it's a bird or a person.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that to do this effectively, you need those sharp observation skills.
Right.
A deep understanding of social customs and psychology. It's not just about, being sneaky or strong. It's about playing those mind games,
Yeah.
manipulating perceptions.
It makes you realize that true security goes beyond just like physical barriers.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing and protecting against those psychological vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. It's about being aware of how our own behaviors and biases can be used against us.
It really makes you wonder how many of these old tactics are still being used today, just disguised in, in modern ways.
That's a great question. I mean, we might not see people digging pit traps for pigs anymore.
Right.
But those underlying principles, exploiting weaknesses, using deception,
Yeah.
playing on human psychology, those are arguably even more relevant in our digital world. Think about phishing scams,
Yeah.
social engineering, identity theft.
Oh, it's like a whole new level of Koga, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. It seems we have much to learn from the past, even when it comes to safeguarding ourselves in the present. Speaking of learning from the past, let's revisit that story about stealing pigs.
Oh, okay.
It reveals an intriguing detail about home security in old Vietnam.
All right, I'm all ears. What's this intriguing detail?
Well, the book mentions how thieves would take advantage of this common custom, where people would place a stool outside their houses at night.
Oh, okay.
The belief was that it was an offering,
Okay.
an invitation for wandering spirits to rest.
To keep them from coming inside.
Exactly, to keep them from coming inside and causing trouble.
So they were trying to be like hospitable to the spirits,
Right.
but it ended up backfiring.
Exactly.
They,
Thieves saw those stools not as offerings,
right.
but as handy ladders.
Oh, wow.
They could just use them to climb over walls and get inside,
Oh, no.
bypassing any other security measures.
So a well-intentioned custom creating a security flaw.
Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of makes you wonder if we do anything today that seems harmless,
Right.
but could be exploited in a similar way.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Maybe this story is a reminder to be mindful of our routines and how they might look to someone with, not so good intentions. Being aware is the first step to protecting yourself.
It's true. It's true. This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening.
It has.
It's amazing how these stories from so long ago can still teach us about human nature,
Right.
about security,
Yeah.
about that constant push and pull between those who want to take and those who want to protect.
It shows how timeless those themes are. The methods might have changed, but the basic principles are the same. And, the stories in this book, they give us this really unique way to look at our own behaviors and vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
even in today's world.
And, that brings us to one last story.
Okay.
The one about the thief who wanted to steal the water jug.
Right.
This one really stood out to me because it wasn't just about stealth.
Yeah.
It was about social engineering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of just sneaking in and grabbing the jug, he created this whole elaborate con.
It was like a performance.
So it was.
First, he goes around, pretending to have lost his own jug,
Right.
asking everyone if they've seen it.
Uh-huh.
And when he gets to the real owner's house,
Right.
he points out all these tiny made-up differences
Wow.
between their jug and his missing one.
Just to throw them off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then later, he comes back and just takes it.
It's amazing how he used deception to gain that owner's trust
Yeah.
and then exploits that trust to steal the jug later on.
It really shows, I think, how important it is to be discerning.
Mm-hmm.
Even with people who seem friendly or helpful,
Right.
sometimes those like seemingly harmless interactions
Right.
can be a setup for something, a little more sinister.
That's a valuable lesson, especially in today's world, where scams and manipulation are so prevalent.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to, question those assumptions, to be wary of those who try to gain our trust too quickly,
Right.
and to always be critical of information that seems too good to be true.
It's like that old saying, trust but verify.
Exactly.
We can be open to connecting with others, but it's crucial to have that healthy dose of skepticism
For sure.
and not just like blindly accept everything we're told.
And that ties back to that theme of observation and deduction that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about noticing those physical details.
Right.
It's about observing people's behavior, their motives,
Yeah.
being able to discern what's genuine and what's fabricated.
Yeah, it's like developing the sixth sense
Right.
for spotting potential danger
Mm-hmm.
or deception. We might not be able to catch every trick,
Right.
but by being more aware and observant,
Yeah.
we can significantly reduce our risk of becoming a victim.
Absolutely. And while it's important to be cautious, it's also important to remember that not everyone is out to get us.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a balance to be struck
Right.
between being trusting and being vigilant.
Yeah, it's not about living in like fear or suspicion,
Right.
but about being informed and making, smart choices.
Right.
It's like having a healthy respect for the potential dangers out there without letting that fear control our lives.
And that brings us back to these timeless stories from old Vietnam.
Yeah.
They offer us this glimpse into those complexities of human nature,
Yeah.
reminding us that both good and bad intentions exist, in every society.
It's fascinating how these stories can still be so relevant today.
They are.
They show us that this battle between cunning and protection,
Right.
between those who want to take and those who want to safeguard,
Yeah.
it's an ongoing human story.
It is. And perhaps by understanding those underlying dynamics, by learning from the mistakes and successes of the past,
Right.
we can better navigate the challenges of the present and the future.
So what does all this mean for us today? How do these stories of thieves and traps, of wit and deception, apply to our modern lives?
It feels like, we've been transported back in time,
I know, right?
walking the streets of old Vietnam,
Yes.
learning all about, the tricks of the trade and the art of outsmarting each other.
It's so fascinating.
It really is. It's amazing how these stories, they offer such a rich tapestry of human behavior.
Yeah.
The ingenuity, the vulnerabilities, the constant push and pull between, those seeking to exploit and those seeking to protect.
It strikes me, while we've been focusing on the cleverness of the thieves, there's this underlying theme of community.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the story about the water jug, Anna Banje ultimately relies on the, testimony of witnesses to expose the thief.
That's a great observation. You're right. There's this implicit understanding that dishonesty disrupts the social fabric.
Right.
The community plays this really vital role in upholding justice and maintaining order.
It's like this reminder that security isn't just about individual measures.
Right.
It's like strong doors and watchful dogs.
Yeah.
It's also about having a network of people you can trust who will look out for each other.
Absolutely. It's about fostering this sense of collective responsibility
Hmm.
where everyone is kind of invested in keeping the community safe. Think about, neighborhood watch programs.
Yeah.
Or even just the simple act of looking out for your neighbors. These are like modern day extensions of that ancient communal approach to security.
It's like this shared understanding that a threat to one is a threat to all.
Exactly.
And that brings me to another thought.
Okay.
In these stories, knowledge seems to be such a powerful weapon.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the thief's knowledge of routines or Anna Banyu's understanding of subtle clues, information is key.
Knowledge is power, absolutely.
Mhm.
And in a way, that's as relevant today as it was back then.
Yeah.
Think about cybersecurity. The more you understand about how hackers operate,
Mm-hmm.
the better you can protect your data.
Right, right.
Or even in everyday life, being aware of common scams and manipulation tactics,
Right.
it can help you avoid becoming a victim.
It's like that old saying, forewarned is forearmed.
Exactly.
The more we know, the better equipped we are to face challenges.
And it's not just about acquiring that knowledge.
Yeah.
It's also about applying it wisely.
Yes.
The thief in the pig trap story, he had knowledge,
Right.
but his greed, it clouded his judgment.
Yeah.
He let his ambition outweigh his common sense.
It's a good reminder that knowledge without wisdom can be dangerous.
For sure.
We need to balance our thirst for information with, critical thinking, ethical considerations, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Precisely.
Mm.
We need to constantly question what we know, be open to different perspectives, and be wary of those, easy answers or quick fixes. That's how we can turn knowledge into true wisdom.
So as we wrap up this fascinating deep dive into old Vietnam,
I know, I can't believe we're already at the end.
it feels like we've uncovered not just stories of thieves and traps, but like a timeless guide to human nature and the complexities of security.
It's been a journey through history, culture, and psychology, all intertwined in these captivating tales.
And for you, our listener, we leave you with this final thought. How can we take the wisdom gleaned from these stories and apply it to our own lives? How can we cultivate that sense of community, prioritize knowledge and critical thinking, and navigate that ever-evolving landscape of security in a world that's both connected and complex? Let us know what you think.
It's funny. We've been focusing so much on how clever these thieves are.
Yeah.
But it occurs to me that there's also this theme of community.
Oh, interesting. Running through a lot of these stories, like even just thinking about, that first one we talked about, Banyai and the water jug.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he relies on the testimony of witnesses.
Right.
To expose the thief, right? It's not enough for him to just know. He has to prove it.
He has to have those people to back him up.
Exactly.
Right.
And it made me think, maybe there's this understanding, unspoken, but understood, that, when someone's dishonest, it kind of disrupts that social fabric.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like a threat to the harmony of the community.
Right. And so the community has this really important role in upholding justice and keeping things in order.
It's like security isn't just about, individual measures.
Right.
Like you were saying, strong doors, watchful dogs.
Yeah.
It's also about those social connections.
Exactly.
Having that network of people you can trust who are going to look out for each other.
I mean, think about even today, we still have, neighborhood watch programs.
Right. Or even just the simple act of looking out for your neighbor.
Right. Exactly.
Those are all kind of modern day extensions of that.
Exactly. Of that ancient communal approach.
Yeah. And it's like this shared understanding that a threat to one is a threat to all. And, that brings me to another thought I had while we were talking about all this.
Okay, what's that?
In so many of these stories, knowledge is like this huge weapon.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's the thief's knowledge of routines or An Banju's understanding of those subtle clues, information is key.
Oh, knowledge is power, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's as relevant today as it was back then, right?
Oh, totally.
I mean, think about cybersecurity.
Right.
The more you know about how these hackers operate, the better you can protect your data.
Oh, absolutely.
Even just in everyday life, being aware of common scams, different manipulation tactics, all that. It can help you avoid becoming a victim. It's like that old saying, forewarned is forearmed, right?
Exactly.
The more we know, the better equipped we are to face those challenges.
But it's not just about acquiring the knowledge,
It's
right?
true.
It's also about applying it wisely.
Yes.
We were talking about that thief in the pig trap story.
Yeah.
He had knowledge.
He did, yeah.
But his greed, it clouded his judgment. He let his ambition outweigh his common sense.
Yeah, so knowledge without wisdom can be dangerous.
Absolutely.
You have to kind of balance that thirst for information with critical thinking, ethical considerations, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We need to constantly question what we know, be open to different perspectives.
Yeah.
Be wary of, those easy answers or quick fixes.
Yeah, that's how we turn knowledge into true wisdom.
That's it.
Well, as we wrap up this fascinating deep dive into old Vietnam.
I know, it's flown by.
I know, it has. It feels like we've uncovered not just these stories of thieves and traps, but this timeless guide to human nature
Absolutely, yeah.
and the complexities of security.
It's been this amazing journey through history and culture and psychology,
Yes.
all wrapped up in these captivating tales.
And for you, our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. How can we take this wisdom that we've kind of gleaned from these
All
stories
right.
and apply it to our own lives? How can we, cultivate that sense of community,
Yeah.
prioritize knowledge and critical thinking,
Yeah.
and navigate the ever-evolving landscape of security in this world that's both so connected and so complex?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.